Okay, we're live. We're back again for Red Birth Green After Dark. This is episode 2. And tonight I've got the lovely Kamatai Mitchell with me. We're going to go in and, as we do, talk about the things, right? We're going to follow suit of last week in extending the conversation surrounding Afrofuturism that Rooted is hosting for Black History Month. And last week, if you weren't able to join us, make sure you go and you can search that in the Rooted Facebook archives. And then it's also on Red Birth Green's IGTV. So you can go and catch up with us. We would love to have that. Throw comments in. We still monitor them, even though we're not live together. So last week, we talked about what does it mean to decolonize parenting. This week, we're going to step into a slightly different space, and we're going to talk about what does it look like, or at least start the conversation about what does it look like to decolonize birth and birth spaces and all that good stuff. So it's a hefty topic. We're going to do a 2-parter right off the bat because there's absolutely no way that we can cover it in one conversation together. And honestly, tonight, Cam and I both are showing up tired, y'all. So it's some really heavy lifting for 8:30 on a Thursday night for us to go all the way in that conversation. So I will have another special guest with me next week to further that conversation. But for tonight, let's go in the After Dark space and talk about what it looks like to start the conversation of decolonizing birth and decolonizing birth spaces. So let's just start with that question, Kama. Like when you think about that, obviously we think about it day in and day out, right? It's literally our driving force at this point in time, is to decolonize everything, as we like to say. But when you really hone in on birth and birth spaces and interactions in that container that we face all the time, what does that mean for you?
I think for me, it means, that's a broad question, showing up in your full humanity, fully in humanity, and having it be humanity connected to heart-centeredness, I guess, without sounding too esoteric. When we get too caught up in the neck above, it's really easy to follow policy and protocol and not see the person as a human. And that's what I've witnessed numerous times in the medical industrial complex. And I also witnessed birth supporters showing up in their full humanity in heart space too. So I'm not out here to talk about the negative, but I think decolonizing it is everybody who wants to get into birth keeping should have this kind of way about them. That's just my personal opinion. And if you don't, and you still feel called to it, all the ongoing research, learning, cultivating of that space, knowing that birth is a physiological act and it's not a medical one. Physiological, not medical. If you can just start there, then we would get so far.
Yeah. I like so many good points that I want to unpack a little bit. So let's work our way back. Actually, I think the difference between birth being medicalized, right, or turned into a medical event versus just allowing physiology to flow, right? That still, after all this time, is lost, I think, so often. And I think there's a lot of complexity to it. It's not just as simple as saying, like, let's lean into the physiology of it, because I think for me anyways, it's a step before that. And it's about making sure that, young people, like when they start menstruating, and even if you're not somebody who menstruates, like that you understand the physiology of your body and how your mechanics work, right? So it starts there. Then we can move it into the space of birth. And also just like retraining our minds to think about it. Like it's been modeled to us for decade after decade after decade at this point in time that it is a medical event. Like it requires hands-on, it requires a doing. And what we have seen be really powerful is that if you just show up as a way of being instead of a way of doing, magic can happen, right?
Exactly.
And so, um, why do we get stuck, for lack of a better term, of feeling like we always have to like force it into something that it's really truly not meant to be?
Mm. I'm going to say the same thing because we're stuck in our heads.
Mhm.
Tapping into intuition, we're not asking holistic questions. We're not interrogating the whys, why things are do, why we do certain things when it comes to helping people birth people.
Mm.
Why? What's the why? Why? Is this the why for every single person, or is it the why for my person, my body? And putting us into these boxes, putting people into boxes, how they should birth, what position, which way, all these things just takes us away from the natural physiological way that the body wants to move. And I know that there's high risk pregnancies. There's a lot of different variables where medical intervention is so needed and great, but it should be based on holistic viewpoints, right? All the viewpoints. We should be talking about nutrition and diet and stress levels and all the things before we're making medical decisions for other people's bodies.
Yeah, for sure. Again, like, so it's that why question, right? This has come up in literally every single conversation that we've had this month in various capacities. And I think it's so interesting to have one simple word with a question mark be so powerful in how we really shake things up, right? And continue to do this work. It's really as simple as just asking why. And there's nothing wrong with that. Last week, we talked about how to cultivate that questioning way of being in our children, right? To so that we can kind of shift that generational conversation about it's okay for kids to question things, like, right, and like how we can support that and encourage. And so I think one of the best ways for that to happen is for us to model it as adults, right? um, I, especially working with like first time parents, I love to impress on them that all of the skills that you practice now as you're preparing to have this baby are the skills that you're going to need as a parent, right? Like you get to practice now on yourself and how you show up for yourself and the way that you're able to advocate, so that you can walk into a pediatrician's office and ask why with confidence, right? If you've never asked why before, it's going to feel scary and uncomfortable, but it doesn't have to. And so, again, it's like how you show up for yourself is how then you can show up for other people. Anyone who's had a conversation with me in the last 6 months knows that that is like just the essence of our way of doing, at least for Red Birth Green. And it's just really important. Like it's just so important. I can't emphasize that enough. So um, the other thing that you brought up in both contexts of questions is like humanizing the process, right? And being really holistic in our mindset. And so I want to talk about that a little bit because ironically, that was in a conversation that I had earlier today is what does it what does it look like? Why do we need to shift in the way that we show up in these spaces? And I was like, because it's about humanity and it's about recognizing that all of the people involved are individuals, right? And they all bring their own experiences in. And yet, like it's our job as birth workers to like filter that space a little bit, um, and to recognize that everyone also has their flaws, right? And their edges and all of those things. But I think that if we can bring the humanity back into birth spaces, like the impact is profound. How does that sit for you?
Yeah, I like it. That's all I got. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. What is humanity? You know,
Mm,
do we have a common definition? Are we using the common language for our community? I know we are inside of Red Birth Green and Rooted, but how do we make sure that everybody else is thinking on the same lines? At what point do we feel like humanity supersedes all the BS systems we've set up? We're so entwined and entangled with them. It's so hard for us to bring humanity to the forefront of all the things. All the things. Well, we have to have a contract and we have to have this and we got to do the insurance and all this stuff. The minute we start going down all these system routes, we're pulling further and further away from our true humanity. But we're in it. We're in it, right? How do I live not in it and I'm in it? I'm so in it. And
We're
so
so in it. Like we're so in it, and I think everyone is, right? Like for us, the way we show up and the way that because we are change makers in the community, right? Like that's what we're known for. But we're also so in it, like up to here, you guys. And so, it's like we talk about these things and we have the hard conversations and sometimes say the hard things, the things that other people don't want to say, because like I think we recognize our humanity in our imperfection, like navigating these spaces too, right? We do not have it figured out. Like, don't be confused, not for 1 second. I think we're in constant dialogue about, was this the right thing? Should we have moved differently? Is this the right language to be using? Should it be something different? Is this inclusive enough? Is it not? I mean, we're constantly second guessing how we show up in that way. And I think I'm just recognizing constantly that, like, when it comes back to it, like, does it really start with like helping people actually recognize their humanness? Like, have we gone so far at this point that like we don't even know what that means? Like to just be good human beings to one another and like the law of common decency, right? That can go so far. The golden rule of do unto others as you would have done to you, like it's got a lot of weight to it, y'all. Like it's so simple. It doesn't have to be difficult. And I think that so much of the work that we're trying to do right now as we expand Red Birth Green is like get back to some of those more simple basics, right? Like showing up in community for one another, reclaiming the village, giving parents a place to plug in, a place for kids to interact with one another, not within the confines of a school playground or a 15-minute recess period, right? Really, really do life together. That's hard. Like our society has shifted so much that it's hard to even recognize, like, what is my humanness? What do I need?
Yeah.
Right?
Like destigmatizing truth telling, right? And when I say that, that means for like any constituent or client we might have, I want them to be able to tell us the truth about their experience too, right? Not these are the things that we hold true in our organization, what we're trying to do for our whole community and village, but also what is your truth too? And how do we find the spaces in between all that? I don't know anything. I only know what I know. I don't know everything. I only know what I know. And I just want to make sure that that knowledge, the traditions that I've studied under master teachers with and birth workers with is not lost. There's so much. Decolonizing means going back to the way that we were before we started tearing everything up, to me, in disrupting and fragmenting and categorizing and boxing. And so much of that has to do with the humanity and the truth telling that we can do. There was a big conversation in the office yesterday around conflict. And when you move into medical industrial complexes or places like that, there's this weird hierarchy of power, even more so if you're in a Black or brown or non-gender conforming body. There's that automatic, like, I'm not going to start any conflict because of who I am and how I show up in the world and I'm in this space. We don't have any tools in this system, in this society, for really moving into generative conflict and conflict resolution. We're stumbling along and learning as we go. And so much of that to me is about decolonizing everything too. Like, how do we be in conflict and still hold each other in that humanity and love? And I feel like when people go into, have a person come out of their body, it's a very vulnerable space. And they want to make sure that the people who have the knowledge and the power and the tools to help them are holding them in that place, in that human place, trustworthy place.
Yeah, trust is another word I think that's come up a lot as we've had these conversations. So like, starting with ask why, right? Question everything, ask why in a really simple way. But then the importance of trust, like trusted relationships, trusted mentors, trusted resources, that keeps coming up as well. And I think that those are the things that really start to look like reclaiming the village in an embodied sense, right? Like if we can get people engaged with our way of being and really, I don't want to say buy into that. That sounds terrible, but really, I want them to want to be there, right? I want them to show up fully. I want them to choose to be with us in that way, so that we can create that network of trust with one another, right? Like, I want to see like parents coming to group settings and making a brand new connection, and then being able to be like, oh, can you watch my baby for me so that I can go to the store in peace and it'll take me half as long. Yes. Right. But like it starts like that's the long term, right? That's like the macro at this point of like really like having it like live out in life. And it starts on the micro though. And it's like these small changes in the way that we do things. COVID complicates that, right? Like, let's just be super real. I think it's so much harder to talk about decolonizing spaces, especially decolonizing birth, when for collective safety, right? Like colonized systems are required right now, like especially when you're talking about the medical industrial complex. We bump up against that on the regular, like having to, say, okay, where are you at right now? What is your current system? How are we going to interact with that? And then also, how do you maintain, again, that sense of humanity when you can see like literally a fraction of someone's face, right? Like we're losing, yes, eyes are the window to the soul, right? But like there's so much that happens in here. It's where all the nuance lives. And like, how do we do that? Like how do we know if that care provider is smiling or is pissed or just hungry, right? Like I don't know. Like, and same for birthing bodies, same for birth workers. Like how can we do this? How can we continue to like show up and like trudge this territory in a time that like just really complicates it all.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, February in Michigan with a lot of snow, then put a layer of, what are the kids calling it now? Panoramic. Oh, these kids crack me up.
I know. I can't keep up. Like I have them, like, right? Like if it's on TikTok, I'm hearing about it. And even still, I'm like, wait, what? I thought you just said it was this. I don't know what's happening. I cannot keep up. I feel like I'm like, oh, I'm really showing my age at this point. I think I'm hip until, right? Oh my goodness. I don't know. Like, is it naive to think that it really could be as simple as what we've laid out here? Like that it's as simple as questioning things and showing up for people as our whole selves with transparency and, looking at people as individuals while not becoming individualized, right? Because those are two different things. Yeah, like is that naive to think that like we're trying to like create some utopia that actually can't exist?
Maybe. That's what my tantric teacher would tell me. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I'm only doing the best I can with what I have.
For sure. For sure.
I at this point, I don't know what else to do. Like I've started this thing and it's growing, and now I either cut it out or feed it. And it feels good to feed it for a lot of people, creating some really nice jobs, creating some really great programming that's holistic and nuanced with how it could look. Why not? Why not? Why not be naive and be in that space of upward mobility for a healthier community? Why not? We'll see.
Right? Here we go. Here we go. Let's go. Right? Let's go. That's all we ever say. But I know I'm sitting here, like I'm thinking I'm letting that question percolate for myself too. And I think that Christine said, yes, feed it. Like for once, because like I think that being naive is often seen with a negative lens, right? But for once, it feels really good to sit in this space of like, what can we dream? Like, how big can we dream? And how much change can we impact in the shortest amount of time, right? the clock is ticking. Our kids are watching, right? Like they're looking right now at us, our generation, and saying, but what are you going to do about it? Right. And so it doesn't feel wise or good in my body to not do anything. And so again, it's like
Mhm.
this is my little microcosm. This is where I can impact that change. And, and then do it from a passing of the wisdom standpoint or teaching if that's more
Yeah.
comfortable for people, right? Like if you need to be taught how to do this, if you're like, I don't know how to do it. All
Mhm.
right, come, we'll teach you, right?
Mhm.
We're going to call it that. We're going to tell you we're passing the wisdom that we've acquired. But if you need to be taught, then come.
Mhm.
Come on. Like we
Mhm.
will teach you because this is group work, right?
Right.
Like it's really, really heavy lifting when it's like one or two people, or, at this point, there's what, 8 of us. It still is heavy lifting,
Mhm.
right? But many hands make light work.
Mhm.
And I feel like I'm full of quips tonight, but like that's just was dropping in. Like but it is many hands make for light work. And so come to the table, come to the village, right?
Mhm.
Sit with us.
Mhm.
Like at some point we'll be able to like break some bread together because that would be awesome. We're not quite there yet. We're getting there. Come on, COVID, we can do it. But like we can come and be and share and like just even to like vibe on like other people's energy, like who have that similar mindset of saying, I don't know what the answer is. I don't even know what to do, but I know that I don't like the way that things are. And it feels really uncomfortable to question everything. So, can you teach me how to question something small? You bet. Like,
Mhm.
come on, let's do it. And again, for me, it's like parents and babies and, really small humans
Mhm.
and birth workers and equitable access and like that's my jam, that's my heart and soul. And obviously we have a ton of work to do when it comes to like resolving things like birth disparity like in the community, like all of those things, right? And so it's like when we see this huge um goal, like what choice do we have but to feed it and to like keep that foot on the gas, and just keep going. I don't know, like I don't know any other way of being, and so I guess until it reveals itself, here we are, just gonna keep at it.
Mhm. I believe in I believe the children are our future. Yes, I just sang Whitney, y'all. I really feel like what else are we supposed to be doing with our time but making it better for our offspring,
Yeah,
whether that's our nieces, nephews, birth children, adopted, whatever. I mean, what are we leaving them? You
right,
know?
the
I don't
collective children, I think that's really important, right? Because
Yeah.
it is like I think about it again, since we're talking about decolonizing birth, like I think about showing up at the hospital, right? Typical birth situation, and getting into a bit of tension with a care provider and being the person who holds the space, shifts it to a place of humanity, right? Um, and is able to change the narrative, maybe offer a new perspective for that provider that they never would have had before.
Mhm.
I I think that then hopefully that causes, at least starts the ripple effect, right? For the next person who comes in who maybe doesn't have a birth keeper with them or doesn't have a village of support or, is like alone and terrified. Maybe our experience in there and the things that we left behind with that provider can then show up for that person in a better way, right? Like
Ripple.
it's the ripple.
Mhm.
Again, it's another quip, but I can't help it. It's the ripple effect. And one tiny drop, like one point, like just one tiny drop.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I'm just gonna sit in my naive state of being, my dreamer state. I think there's definitely vulnerability, I think, in us showing up really tired and taxed this week. And like um, and just saying like, yeah, I'm just gonna keep dreaming and I'm gonna hope, just keep wishing
Yeah.
and keep pressing forward. Like that's what it is. Like and taking those baby steps and encouraging others to take the baby steps of questioning,
Mhm.
ask the questions, as a parent or just as a person. Like if you're not a birthing person, you're not a birthing body, but you have a friend who is, or a sister, or, your non-binary partner, like you will encounter somebody who needs you to ask a question. If something doesn't feel right in your soul, ask why.
Wow.
Yes,
Mhm.
ask why. So
Yeah.
Ella just asked if we're talking about what happens during birthday. If you have a specific question, drop it in the comments, Ella, and we can definitely talk about that a little bit. Because it's a really, really vast topic. And we could do a whole episode just on like the birthing process and what that looks like too. So, but you know, what the people ask for, we try and give them when they show up in this space. So yeah. What other thoughts? I don't know.
Decolonizing birth. Humanity, trust, vulnerability, honesty. That's it. It's that easy.
Right. So easy, right?
You said about being naive. I feel like that childlike quality can go as far. You know, I've learned so much from my sons. I learned so much from the youth that I interact with, and the quality that they still carry for a long time until our society and system squishes adulting, squishes it out of them.
That part.
It's so much part about being in that naive space. I feel like it's very important to find that joy, that liberation that you only see in young bodies flipping and flying and moving their limbs how they feel and not what it's supposed to look like.
Right? They do. There's innocence there. Like they move so free. They move so free. Like
So when you say talk about naive, that's what I think. I think of youthful being. I'm okay people call me naive or dreamer. That's fine. I'm just, we get so caught up on the semantics too, like even having a whole conversation around what the word decolonizing means. Like
right?
the whole word. We get so caught up on semantics, and I don't care what you call me. I don't care what you want to identify me or label me at, as long as you're doing it in a decolonizing way.
Again, do you see me, right? Can you honor me and who I am and what my needs are, right? Hello. Like yeah, it doesn't I think like when we I think about when people are like, well, like, what should I call you? Or like, what are your pronouns or whatever? And like, I'm not laughing about that because like that's a super place of respect.
Absolutely.
But I think that I'm just like, I don't know, call me whatever you want to. Like, but do you honor who I am? That's what I'm asking for. Like, as just, yeah, do you honor who I am? Do you honor what I bring to the table and my needs? And like again, there's a mutual exchange of that, right? Mutual respect, mutual trust. Like, and I think that really beautiful things can come out of that when we like level the playing field a bit. Like, I don't like sitting above people, right? Like, I'm sitting literally on my floor tonight. Like, I don't know how much more grounded and connected that can get, but like, it's like I don't like sitting above. Like, yes, like you're in charge of the organization. I'm in charge of Red Birth Green, whatever. We're still just people. And like, just show up. Just again, be a human and show up as a good person and like see other people in that capacity. I don't know. It just feels really easy.
Yeah.
Really easy.
Yeah. It feels really easy. And I think being in those kind of naive spaces, if you've been a OBGYN or a nurse or a midwife or a doula for 30 years, please bring a little of that youthfulness into the room with this new client. Don't come in with your preconceived notions and your ideologies and your biases and your microaggressions and subconscious ways of being. Try to get that clear. Do some self-realization around it if you want to be a birth keeper. Like, show up in that space. Decolonize yourself and everything else will be decolonized. There we go.
That's such a good point, though, honestly, like, because it starts within. And I think that, I think it's possible that we forget that. because this is our way of being. This is our primary language, right?
Mhm.
But that's not the case for other people,
Mhm.
especially not within the medical industrial complex. Like, and so I just, yeah, bringing in that youthfulness, that's a big one. I just think of all of the times that I've been in a birthing space within that setting, and it's like, this is just another number. It's just another birth.
Yeah,
Just another birth.
yeah.
Like, for you, yes, not for this person,
Do you
right?
know, I'm not gonna say her name, but there's a midwife in this community. I've been in the birth room. I was in the birth room with her maybe 5 times before she remembered me, before COVID, and I feel like I'm pretty memorable. I don't take up a lot of space at a birth. I'm
No,
holding space, but still, I'm like, wow, that's really interesting to me that it's so much of her life has been this in the birth room that she doesn't remember me that's been in the room. Like yeah, this is like my 5th birth with you.
I know, right?
No, and to me, that's part of it. I'm thinking of something my yoga teacher says. She says, showing up with the 3 C's. Calm, I don't know if they're in this particular order. Calm, compassionate, and curiosity. Curious. That's if you show up to a birth like that, you're gonna be good. I'm calm, I
Absolutely.
got compassion for you, and I'm curious. Go. Regardless of your skill set and medical knowledge and policy and protocol and ACOG and whatever, regardless of all that, be those 3 C's first, and you will decolonize whatever situation you're in.
I think especially the curiosity piece, right? What is this situation that's right in front of me? What is it going to teach me? What am I here to learn about? Right? What do I know about this person? Tell me. What are your dreams? Like, even because, right? Let's talk about the fact that, like, you can walk into a birth hospital and get an on-call provider that you've never seen before, right? Never laid eyes on. That's entirely possible. And so, but to have that provider show up and instantly be able to build that rapport with you, because they're just like, tell me about your experience, right? I want to know about you. Like, what baby is this for you? Like, how was your last birth? It takes like literally 90 seconds. It takes 90 seconds to ask questions and build a rapport. Truly. Like, and it blows my mind how often that's a missed opportunity in that setting.
I understand the pressure that some of the birth keepers I've worked with are under, but you can't really take a breath, uh, free it up from whatever room you were just in or report you were writing to just show up in your full humanity for this person, especially a first time birther.
Mm.
Gosh, that
Right. Because those first time birthers, like, even if they're really prepared, right? Even if we're there with them, they've got a great support team. It's still new and a little bit scary and a little bit tense, right? And so to think about the change that can happen, to even if that provider just came from a crazy emergency cesarean crash situation, right? Because that happens, let's be honest, is birth. You're always one breath away in either direction. Like, we know this. But, like, leave that at the door. We have to. Like, we can't show up, right? There are times that we also do back-to-back births. It's no different. But, like, we're doing a disservice to our clients, and we're actually not living up to their expectations of our relationship if we show up like that,
Mhm.
right? So, again, we're all human here, and there are errors in our ways, but I don't think that that's an error on our part. Like, I
Mhm.
will always be like, okay, let me dust myself off. Like, I gotta, like, take a minute, right? Reset, and
Mhm.
then I can go into this. And again, I think that also applies to, like, parenting and, like, even interacting with the crabby cashier at the grocery store, right? Like, these are ways of being. Like, it's all
Yeah,
the time.
all the time.
All the time. You don't like, I think once you start to, like, really embody what it means to decolonize society and the way that we move in different spaces, you never take it off.
Mhm.
You never take it off.
Mhm.
Um, and again, that's another ripple effect.
Mhm.
Like, if you're the only kind person that cashier encounters in the day, like, then they can hold on to that moment, right? If you're the only kind person that a nurse on labor and delivery encounters that day, they can take that with them. They can hold on to that. You impact the change in those moments just because of the way that you are moving and breathing in spaces.
That's right.
That's what we're working towards. So,
Mm-hmm.
who we, again, this is such a huge conversation. I mentioned at the top of our time together that we're actually breaking down what does it mean to decolonize birth into a 2-part series. So tonight is part 1, just like an intro. Next week, I'm going to have another special guest with me talking about what that looks like. Really more almost like at like the policy level.
Mm-hmm.
It's bigger than people in a lot of cases right now. That's why it's a 2-parter, because there's no way we can talk about the humanity of things and then step into the policy side. Those things have a lot of disconnect and a lot of bridge work to happen. So we're so grateful for you sharing a bit of time with us tonight, showing up in our humanity and our vulnerability of just being like and tired. We hope that you join us every Thursday. We're going to show up in this space live at 8:30 for Red Birth Green After Dark. You can also catch it in the archives on Rooted's Facebook page, as well as on Red Birth Green's Instagram, IGTV, which is the handle is at Red Birth Green. Also, come visit us on our website at www.redbirthgreen.com. Lots of information about different services that are available. We have some workshops that are going to be coming up in the months like leading us through spring as we get through this, dreary cold spell and hope that things start to thaw out. They will. It's coming. Yes. I've seen robins around, like even in this cold, I've seen robins. So there's hope. We're just excited and we're really grateful always to be able to partner with the community in this work and show up. So this is a space for you. After dark, we want to talk about the things that you want to hear about. So if you have a suggestion or an idea or a band, I really want to know what this is, leave us a comment so that we can plan to lean in on that. Or you can always fill out our contact form and say hello and be like, hey, I watched you guys and this is really fun. We would love to hear from you. Until next time, I'm Erica Goodhouse.
Kamata Mitchell. Going to bed.
Yes, go to bed, please. Bye.